Right, guys, welcome back to Unit 1, Outcome 3, Key Knowledge 5. Our focus in this video is technological considerations. So here's our study design. You can see we're moving down through the key knowledge dot points here. As you can see, the last time we did the economic conditions. So today we're looking at still staying in the macro environment, but we're looking at technological considerations such as how the market may change in the future and how businesses adapt to developments in technology. So look, this one it's a little bit more vague in what the study design key knowledge dot point says there. Like the last one, it said interest rates, employment levels, blah, blah. It was a bit more focused. This one's a little bit more vague, but we are going to cover off on what it says there, hopefully, and give you a bit of an understanding of what this one is all about. So again, I'm just going to re-emphasize, be able to, basically what you should be able to do is draw this, just off the top of your head, draw this diagram so that you understand how all of these factors or elements kind of relate to each other and where they all sit in these environments. So again, we're moving around the outside. So now our 1.3.5 technological issues is our our fourth macro factor that we're going to be looking at of the 6 before we start on the 4 operating environment factors. So basically, what is this one all about? So in the early 2020s, and I'm counting 2024, I guess, is the early 2020s, our lives are absolutely dictated by, and we completely rely upon technology. Okay, when we first wake up, check social media. Well, actually, no, I do not check social media when I first wake up, but most of you probably do. And I get that a lot of people in life generally do this. Technology is involved in pretty much everything we do these days. Okay, when we go shopping, we rarely pay now with cash, but with cards, even our phones or our watches even. Okay, so the point of this is it was not always this way. Whether you realize this or not, this is not how life has always been. Okay, now technology is constantly changing, constantly evolving. Okay, and what that means is businesses constantly have to change and adapt in the way in which they operate to kind of take account of this and reflect this in so many different ways, which we'll kind of talk about as we go through this. So it means that as technology evolves, okay, there's different products and services that are now offered, okay, which ones weren't. And actually, just before I talk about those, I've got there 1988 versus 2024, just to kind of think about this. I put 1988 just because that was the year that I was about the age that you guys are now, okay? So I think back to when I was sitting in year 11 at school. Life was very different, okay? So I'm thinking here as I'm talking about this, so the products and services that I would have been accessing or buying, a lot of them were very, very different to the products and services that you guys now access and buy. And technology is not the whole story there, but it certainly is part of the story. Okay, the way in which those products and services are produced is very different, from when I was your age to now. The way in which those products and services are sought out by customers. So think internet. Okay, 1988, when I was your age, the internet wasn't a thing. Yeah, it hadn't been invented. Well, it may have been invented, but it certainly wasn't something that the public had access to or were using. We were still 10 years away, I think, from that stage. The way in which products and services are delivered to the customer. And the way in which businesses interact with customers. So basically what we're saying here is every aspect of how a business operates is different. Okay, and this is only, a generation ago. Okay, obviously you could go back further in time. And the reality is that technology is changing constantly. Okay, even if we look at 5 years ago, a lot of this stuff could be quite different to now. Okay, and this is kind of the point. Technology impacts everything about a business, and business basically has to stay up to date with the technology. That's kind of overlying everything we're going to be saying in this video. Okay, so coming back to this idea of this being in the macro environment, okay, business owners can't control developments in technology. I mean, maybe you could argue that the tech companies behind them are controlling them to a point, but all businesses must be aware of the changes in technology so that they can remain competitive. Because in other words, if you as a business owner are not taking account of changes in technology, but your competitors are, you're going to become uncompetitive in relation to them. But also technology presents opportunities, okay, which again, if you are not taking advantage of those within your business, but your competitors are, again, it's going to lead to you becoming uncompetitive. So you need to be really, really on the ball with this stuff with technology. Be aware of what's going on with technology around you, and building that into the decisions that you make within your business. If you do not do this, you will become uncompetitive. You may become irrelevant. You can become obsolete. Your business might essentially become redundant, and ultimately your business may fail. Okay, so it cannot be overstated, the importance. So what we're going to have a look at from here, a few examples of technological developments and how they can impact business planning. Look, literally, this is a few random ones. There are so many more, but just to give you some examples. And then going to have a quick look at the advantages and the disadvantages that all of this has on business and the business planning. So look, one fairly obvious, I think, example, automation. Okay, just some examples there. You can see some images there of like factories producing stuff. Obviously, these days, if you go into a factory, very often now you do not see people even. Okay, it's all run by machines, computers, which are running robots. And there's actually very few people involved in the mass production of goods that we buy these days. Okay, if you do this subject in year 12, which I'm assuming most of you will, we actually go on a visit to the Yakult. Yakult, the yogurt drink, the fermented yogurt drink, comes in those little bottles you could buy in the supermarket. So their Australian factory is in Dandenong. We actually do an excursion there which relates quite specifically to one of the outcomes that we study in year 12. So we go to the factory, we spend a few hours there, and you would see exactly what I mean. They're producing hundreds of thousands of bottles of Yakult every day. And when you look at the factory floor, there's literally hardly any people involved. You just see machines like what you're seeing here doing everything. Okay, that's automation. And then the example there below, McDonald's, more recent addition to the way that McDonald's operate. They're automating the ordering process even. And again, other restaurants, like now you can go, sometimes they give you an iPad. Okay, so this automation can take lots of different forms and impact different parts of a business operation, but the whole point, automation. And if we needed to define automation, to get some rigor around what that actually means, all we mean is machinery and equipment which replaces people in business processes. That's all it means. Okay. Why do businesses need to or want to automate processes? Number one, it's faster generally. So imagine if you're mass producing products, it's much faster using these types of machines. More precise, like these machines produce very precise and consistent products, which means a high degree of accuracy and therefore quality can be achieved. It takes repetitive tasks out of the hands of people, which is a good thing. It takes dangerous tasks out of the hands of people, and it saves on labour costs, which really is a big one here. Okay. In the past, if you looked at a factory, there'd be hundreds, thousands of people on the shop floor all doing work. If you replace those people with machines, in the long run, whilst those machines are going to cost you money to install in the first place, in the long run, over a number of years, you're saving a huge amount on your wage bill. So yes, saving on labour costs is often a huge driver behind this idea of automation. Second example of top technology, websites, online sales, all that kind of stuff. Why do businesses do this? Look, gives you the ability to connect with your existing customers very easily. Not just existing, potential customers. I mean, existing or potential, anybody. From home 24/7. These days, I mean, you could take that even a step further. You don't even need to be at home because now we can access stuff on our phones. So you could be sitting on a beach in Bali, buying stuff to be delivered, in time for when you get home to be, sitting outside your house. It's insane. Okay, so connecting with your customers more easily and constantly. Connecting with a broader range of potential customers, for example, geographically. So now if you're an Australian retailing business, you can now connect with customers who are living overseas, which clearly before websites and online shopping, you couldn't do because, the customer would have to come into your physical shop. Now they don't have to do that. So it allows you to access a much, much broader range of customers than what you could do otherwise. I guess, look, a general expectation of today's consumer, like consumers, customers, the general population just expects these days to be able to operate in this way. So if you're a business that kind of refuses to get on board with all of this online stuff, chances are you're going to fail because too many people now just expect that businesses are going to offer this kind of method of shopping and this method of interacting with the business. So it's just kind of, you have to play the game. It also actually allows you to easily collect data on customers. So when you're making purchases, it allows the business to kind of collect a really good database of information on their customers, which you can then use for future marketing campaigns. So it's actually a really good source of data for the business. And all of this stuff, in combination, basically leads to more sales, which fundamentally, if you're running a business, that's always what you're driving to achieve. Third example, and again, look, these are just kind of random examples here. Look, alternative payment methods. I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Okay, so once upon a time, we paid by cash, and then we could pay by credit cards, and then debit cards. Now, lots and lots of different methods. Okay, right down to, like I said, your watch. I mean, I very rarely carry cash these days. There's now, you read media reports, so they reckon within 3 or 4 years, Australia is essentially going to become a cashless society completely. In fact, I have friends that just got back over the Easter holidays from a holiday in Hamilton Island, and the entire island is already completely cashless. So it looks like Australia is heading that direction. It's just a matter of time. So why have these alternative payment methods been introduced? Increased convenience for customers, and anything that makes things more convenient for customers should lead to more sales. Less need to carry cash, so that's from a security point of view. Faster transaction speeds are available now, and also proof of payment, so now because I usually pay by my watch. Receipts are sent automatically to my watch or my email. You don't have to worry about keeping physical receipts. I can always track back everything electronically pretty easily. So look, a bunch of reasons why we've kind of gone down this direction, I guess. For an example, like this is a very much a more recent one, 5G technologies. You need 5G is apparently 100 times faster, or up to 100 times faster, more stable than 4G. So it means you can connect with and interact with customers quicker and more reliably, theoretically. So again, you just need to be able to think, when you're setting up, when you're planning your business, is this something that is going to be important to you? And again, that's the whole point of all this technology. You need to think about which technologies are going to be impactful in your business. And if this is all about making decisions. And if you come to the decision that the 5G thing is really not impactful, then it's not something you need to kind of explore or go down that route. But is this something that could be, if not now, in the fairly near future, something that could be important to the business that you are going to be operating, then it's something that you need to be exploring. Now, then I said we're going to look at just important to be aware of some advantages of technological developments in business. Okay, so Obviously, look, generally speaking, the way the world has moved, the way technology has kind of impacted, like I said, all of life, not just business. Generally, you think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, but as we'll see in a minute, that there are two sides to it. Some of these I've already mentioned when we looked at the specific technologies, but here's just a kind of a bit of a comprehensive list for you. So accuracy and consistency in production, already mentioned that one, leading to increased quality. And the idea means if you have an increased quality in the product that you're selling, that should lead to more sales. Makes sense. Efficiency in production. All businesses are constantly looking to drive efficiency, increase efficiency, reduce the cost of production. And like I said, this comes in the form of less employees being needed. Again, mentioned already, removal of repetitive and unsafe tasks from humans, which is a good thing. It means production can run 24/7. Look, I guess if you're using humans, you run shifts, but I guess look, with technology, technology does not take holidays, and it does not take sick leave. So again, there's kind of that reliability element to it, which you don't get with people. Another one, haven't mentioned this one, I don't think yet. Websites and apps can provide up-to-date information on the business in a more general sense. And kind of linked to that one, businesses connect more easily with their customers via websites and apps. And again, particularly with the growth in mobile technology, particularly with mobile apps, the fact that, and social media, it's easy for business to stay in touch with their customers wherever they are, whatever time of day it is, kind of constantly. It means you can reach more customers more quickly and more easily. It also allows you to receive customer feedback more quickly and easily than you once could. And the idea, but most of that stuff above leads to an increase in customer satisfaction, and any increases in customer satisfaction should thereby lead to an increase in sales. So bit of a list there of the advantages and a general sense of technological developments in business. But like I said, there is a downside to this stuff. So here are some examples of that. So first off, CSR associated with replacing people with technology. Now, I say CSR, I'm assuming that already you've read that as corporate social responsibility, because we've come across that concept already multiple times this year. So what we mean there is, look, it's not deemed to be a good look from a social responsibility or an ethical point of view to be replacing people with technology. Okay, there's constantly stories in the media about this business, another 1,000 jobs slash, people to be replaced by this technology or that technology. There's a lot in the media at the moment about how AI is going to be impacting various types of jobs in the future, which, at your age, that it's worth being across that stuff, and it's quite interesting reading. There's certain jobs that they're saying, look, AI is definitely going to be replacing that. Certain job, they're saying that job is pretty much safe into the future. Look, when you're thinking about your own future at the age that you're at, it's kind of worth looking into, because the last thing you want to do is finish up school, go to uni and study for something, get qualifications to help you get into a job which in another 5 years is going to be obsolete because AI and technology is going to be doing it. So it's kind of worth being aware of this stuff just generally in life. If you don't adapt or change quickly enough, as a business owner, you can quickly become uncompetitive. Now, I guess, look, the issue here is that a lot of these changes in technology, or all of them, they're going to cost you money. And that cost can be quite expensive, okay? So if you don't have the ability to keep up to date because you can't afford to constantly changing your operations to keep up to date with the technology, that's when, as a business, you can quickly become uncompetitive. So again, it's something else you need to think about. Are you going to be able to afford to be in this type of a business? One option, or another point to make here is technology can be all or nothing. Now, I did say in the previous screen that technology does not take sick leave. Okay, it doesn't get sick, but technology does break down from time to time. Okay, and the problem with this is that often when technology breaks down, it can mean that just everything stops. Okay, if you think about a production line with people, if a couple of people are sick, production still continues. But sometimes when you have a production line which is automated, depending on what the issue is, but if something goes wrong, it can mean the entire production stops down. Okay, so technology, that's what I mean, it can kind of be all or nothing. So that's an issue. Obviously, the get around there is to make sure that your technology is maintained as well as possible so that it's more reliable and breakdowns or issues happen as infrequently as possible. But that is the issue. Sometimes when technology goes wrong, everything can come to a stop, which is not ideal. Technology can be very expensive to implement and maintain. I've kind of touched on that one a couple of points above, but this is the issue. So again, when you're planning your business, you need to be aware of the types of technology that, number one, you're going to need to get the business going, but also which direction the technology is headed in the future. You need to think about the future, not now, is my business going to be viable in the next 12 months, but is my business going to be viable in the next 5 years, 10 years? And if the indicators are that the technology is going to be hugely expensive to remain competitive in that market, again, it might impact your decisions around, whether you're even going to get into that type of business, or even if you are, planning for some contingencies around how you're going to deal with this very expensive technology when you need to implement it. And then the maintenance. Like I said, it's important to maintain technology, whether it's software, hardware, whatever it might be, so that you minimize any issues with it, which can then impact production, like we talked about before. Training in technology can be problematic. Sometimes people do not want to be trained in new technology, particularly if you've got staff that have been there for a long period of time. They know how to do their job. They're happy with how their job is done. They might not want to get involved in new technology, and this has happened many times over the years when new technology has been implemented into businesses. It meant that some staff have actually left the business, left the industry. But training employees is always going to be an expense to that. It's always going to take time. So again, when you're planning a business, you need to be taking this stuff into account. The time and the expense of training employees on any technology that they're going to need to be using as part of their job. As technology is evolving so quickly, and it really is, it seems to be kind of, it's just on an upward curve. Technology can become obsolete in a fairly short space of time. And this then links back into the idea of it being very expensive to implement. So you can spend a lot of money on technology, which, is great for today, but is that still going to be useful, valid, whatever, in a year, 2 years' time? Or you're going to need to replace it all again? And again, that's fine, but when you're planning a business, you need to be taking this into account when you're making your decisions. Now, the last one I've got here at the end, the review culture. What I mean by that is sites like TripAdvisor, where people can leave reviews. There's productreview.com.au, I think it is, where basically nowadays when people make purchases, particularly more expensive purchases like, cars or holidays, but, it applies to restaurants and cafes and everything as well, because this is all kind of social media led. What people often do before booking a certain hotel is go and look at TripAdvisor, look at all the reviews. And often there's thousands of reviews. And you know what? When you do that, it's actually really hard to make a booking because there's always going to be positive and negative reviews. Okay, if there's 5,000 reviews of a hotel, you're going to cover the full gamut. And when you are looking to spend your own money, it's actually really hard to not focus on those negative ones. Okay, there might be 5,000 reviews, and 4,950 of them are really positive, but it's hard to not focus on those 50 that are negative. You always say, what if that happens to me? But this review culture can make running a business, even a small business, a cafe or a restaurant, quite tricky because people, again, by human nature, people are more likely to talk if they've had negative experiences rather than positive. So particularly with hospitality and that type of business, you tend to find more negative than positive reviews because most people have had a positive review just don't say anything about that experience that they've had. So again, it's just something that you need to be aware of. I mean, now look, a lot of particularly big businesses, they actually have, either a or a team of social media managers that literally just they spend their time managing the social media communication of the business, which might even involve responding to any negative feedback that's received about the business online. It's become a job that's become necessary in and of itself even. So again, just something to be aware of. That is just becoming more and more of a thing, more and more prevalent in business. Okay, so summarizing this one, just a few key points to take away from this, right? Really, really important to just kind of get your head around. Okay, first off, when you're planning a business, it's essential that the potential business owner considers a technology that is relevant to that particular business, but also be thinking about the changing pace of that technology as well. Okay, in which direction is that technology heading? In other words, will I be able to afford not only the initial cost of buying whatever I need to get the business set up, but am I going to be able to afford the continual updates and maintenance that I'm going to need in this type of business? So it's not just about the cost of the technology now, it's about thinking about and planning for the cost of maintaining or maybe changing this technology moving forward. Next key point, being aware of emerging technologies that can impact your business concept. Okay, if you fail to recognize the emerging technologies that can impact your business, it means you can very quickly become uncompetitive, lose out on opportunities, and ultimately your business may fail fairly quickly. As with any area of setting up a business, okay, you as the owner might not have the necessary knowledge of all of this sort of stuff. Okay, so just as if you're not a finance expert, you'd go and talk to an accountant. You're not a legal expert, you'll talk to a lawyer. You're not a marketing expert, you'll go and talk to someone that knows about marketing. You might need to seek the services of someone who is expert on technology in this particular field and get their advice so that, again, you're minimizing the risks of making the wrong decisions as your business moves down the track. And then, as identified in a later part of this video, there's downsides to all of this technological implementation. Okay, so whilst overall we'd probably say, that the benefits in business has been, the benefits would outweigh the negatives, there are negatives and you do need to be aware of them. Okay, so when you are planning your business, you need to also be thinking about those downsides that we kind of talked about a few of, as well as the upsides. And that is it for technological considerations. I will see you in the next video, which will be Key Knowledge 6. Cheers for now.